Thank you so much. It's always a pleasure to be here, and especially when we have Talmidim here to Shepton Achas. It was very special. Welcome Torah. I go back to the cave you guys had back in the old city, right? That was the original Rashid. That was the original place. We had a Groveman there, I think. Right. It was incredible then, and Baruch Hashem. Yeshiva's grown so much. It's L'Shem L'Teferes. She just continued to go Michal L'Chayil, and the Yeshivas here should have only nachas from the many Talmidim, Bez Hashem, the Meves from Shanim. I know some of the issues that we deal with in terms of our relation with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The Eitzah is really very adept. Musar is, people think it's sort of, it's sort of a downer. Put yourself down, look at all the things you're doing wrong. And the Eitzah is really very good at sort of capitalizing on that. So Musar shouldn't be a downer from the point of view of focusing on what we're doing wrong. I think a little bit, the sense of the new wave in Klal Yisrael is let's focus more on what we're doing right. I think there's a sort of a new wave going on over the last 10, 15 years where a lot of emphasis on the positive ruach and just let's feel good about ourselves. And there's a lot really to say about that, but I think it's really an answer to the issue of that Yetzer Hara that is really very, very adept. Every time we have a stumble, every time we sort of fall, we sort of get down on ourselves. I think we have to focus, and again, there's room for tshuva, and there's room for slach every single day. It isn't like we have to be blind to whatever shortcomings we have, but I think there is a lot to be said in today's day and age of really focusing on the positive. And one of the positives I think we have to focus in on is the fact that even though we are human, and even though we make mistakes, and even though we do stumble, if we recognize the incredible Avos Hashem, how HaKadosh Baruch Hu is on our side, and He's not looking to get us into trouble. He's not looking for us to stumble, just the opposite. He's looking for us to connect to Him and to appreciate who we are. And the more we recognize what we can accomplish and who we are and the greatness we have inherently within us, and we recognize that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is completely in our corner, wanting to inspire us, wanting to connect to us, and wanting to totally embrace every move we make. There's an incredible rush I saw a couple of weeks ago. I think I might have seen it earlier, but it sort of hit me again as I read it just recently, that he asked a very, fundamental question. We know that 80% of Klal Yisrael was lost before leaving Egypt, right? In the Exodus, only 20 v'chamushim alu. They only went up 20%. They didn't go up with the entire, full body of Klal Yisrael. We lost 80%. And he asked, well, if we lost 80%, I believe it's Rosh who asked the question, then how did Nadav, Das and Vaviram, these two antagonists to Moshe Rabbeinu and to Klal Yisrael, these two Rishonim, who seemed to, and he calls them Rishon Gemur, how did they seem to get out? What did they have that the other 80% didn't have? I mean, it's a really very, very good question. So he says something very fascinating. And again, I think it's just part of the whole view of sort of that paradigm shift we have to have in our minds about our relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And he says that it's true, they were Rishonim. And maybe I might want to say they weren't Rishonim then, they became Rishonim later. I'm sure there might be some other Terutzim, but the Rosh says, despite the fact that they were indeed Rishonim Gemurim, they were not Misyayesh from the Gula. They still had a longing for the redemption. They wanted to be removed from the exile. They wanted Gula. And what that means is that the other 80%, amazingly, apparently were Misyayesh. They were Misyayesh from the Gula. And it really hit me just this past Shabbos back in LA, back in the valley. There was a fellow, we were talking somehow, we're doing Pirkei Avos, but we got into some talk about Mashiach. And he says, with a straight face, he's a frum guy. I remember sitting opposite the table from me Shabbos morning in a half-hour shir for young guys, young marrieds. And he says, I don't want Mashiach. You don't want Mashiach? I says, no, he says, I can't. I'm ready for Mashiach. He said, I'm just growing in my Yiddishkeit. I'm just beginning my process. I'm married. I think he had a kid, but he's, I don't know what his background was fully. I didn't know him well, but he just started opening up about the fact that he has got a long way to go. And while he has definitely moved closer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, he says, I'm not ready for Mashiach. So I don't want it to come because I'm not sure I'm going along for the ride. I'm not sure I'm going to get on that El Al flight as everyone gets a text, you be on this flight, Mashiach is coming, and that's the way it's going to be, because we communicate in the way, the generation, the way it goes. So now we don't even talk to each other. We get texts, right? The kids don't like to talk. Just text me. There are two guys sitting right next to each other. They're texting each other instead of having a conversation. You see it all the time. So we're going to get a text, time to get on the flight. Oh my gosh, I'm not going to get that text. I'm not going to be Roy. Why? Because I'm not where I need to be. And you know where you need to be. And it just sort of struck me. My gosh, all we really need is that mitzvah Yeshua. We don't have to be tzaddikim. And Baruch Hashem, I'm talking to a group, we can't say anybody's a tzaddik, but we can certainly say you are Yechidei school of Klal Yisrael. You are the elite of Klal Yisrael. You have committed yourself to be in a Makam Torah. And despite the fact that maybe when we look in the mirror sometimes we might not be so proud of ourselves, and maybe we get down on ourselves, and the Yitzhak is very good at keeping us down, or pushing us down. But in a moment of honesty and clarity, look at who we are. Look at the commitment you guys made. You came here. You slept yourself out of the comforts of America, and you came, and yes, you came to a very beautiful, fantastic yeshiva. And yes, the physical surroundings are wonderful, but at the end of the day, you came to commit yourself to learning Torah. And every single day, you daven v'yishayim yirachol brachim tashuv. We are nowhere near what the level of a Dasan Va'aviram, Rishoim Gemurim, and yet they were zochah to be from the 20%. Why? Because HaKadosh Baruch Hu is not looking. He's not looking to trip us up. Hi, I got you. Here, forget, just the opposite. He's looking. Just stop and think about what the Sephorah says regarding the Makos. The Sephorah says that the first 9 Makos were really mainly designed for the Mitzrayim. We benefited. We saw the Yad HaChazaka in Israel and the Tuya. We saw the incredible Osos Amosim. But the real reason why he gave those Makos to the Mitzrayim, because Lo Yachbot Mosa Mei says the Sephorah. I don't want the Mitzrayim going down. I don't want them to just part this world with Shoyim. Is that what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted to know? So he gave them the opportunity to do tshuva. He wanted them to do tshuva. And stop and think for a second. So I Dam, Sradeya, Kinim, I have all these makos. I'm being hit over the head 20 times. And finally I say, Uncle, that's it. I want to do tshuva. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, enough. Borot comes. I had enough. I want to do tshuva. So that would count? That's called tshuva? And apparently, yes, it's called tshuva because at the end of the day, you can be hit over the head with 100 makos. If you don't have that inner movement towards HaKadosh Baruch Hu to say, I recognize the truth and I want to get closer to you, if you're not ready to do that, then you can see all the miracles in the world and it will not be tshuva. And if you are able to do that, you exert that spiritual energy to move towards HaKadosh Baruch Hu. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, absolutely, I embrace you. And I don't care how many times I had to bop you over the head for you to get that message. If you now come to me with honesty and integrity and you show me you care, of course I'm going to embrace you. Of course it's never too late. Makas B'chara said it was too late. At that point, HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, okay, deal's off. I gave you every opportunity, now comes the punishment. But the first 9 was not a punishment, it was a wake-up call. It was a plea from HaKadosh Baruch Hu to the Mitzrayim, come closer to me. And that means he would have embraced that movement. He would have embraced that desire for HaKadosh Baruch Hu for them to get close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So, this is a power in the world that wants us sort of down and that somehow we can't seem to feel that we're doing enough. Every single movement in such a dark world that we're living in today, the fact that you guys of Baruch Hashem are you're the 1% of Klal Yisrael. You're at the cutting edge of the future leadership of Klal Yisrael, because where's it going to come from? People who are not learning, people who are not working on a sugya, not trying to figure out pshat and taisus. Where's it going to come? It's going to come from you guys. So the idea of allowing the Yetzer Hara to get in. Just another incredible example. There's a Rashi a few weeks ago that says that HaKadosh Baruch Hu told Moshe to go to Paro. And Rashi said, why do you have to repeat it again? He says, the message was, go and reflect Kavod HaMalchus. Give Paro respect. So the Kashi all asks, I think that was Parshas Bo. Didn't have a chance to look, but I think it was Parshas Bo. And the question is, he already showed respect to Paro earlier. What does HaKadosh Baruch Hu have to say? When you go to Paro, go with Kavod HaMalchus. Show him respect. Don't be antagonistic. What's the point? So they said, well, because before he wasn't showing such antagonism. He wasn't showing such a disregard for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Later on, he started continuing his blindness towards the miracles of what was going on around him. So maybe I might think that, it might be different. So one of the Mefarshim, Rashi, just makes it a little bit clear and says something really incredible. He says, the reason why he told Moshe Rabbeinu, show him respect, because I don't want Paro to have any outs. I don't want him to have any excuses. I want him to come to me, and I want him to do tshuva, but I don't want him, because it's a formula differently than, and the Rambam, with the Rambam, different sheets as far as he closed off his Bechira, but at this point, it seems like he didn't close off the Bechira yet, and I think it's the Be'er Besod that explains, I don't want Paro to have any excuses. If I'm going to punish Paro, I want to punish him based on the opportunity that he had to do tshuva, and I don't want him to come back and say, oh, wait a minute, God, before you punish me, just remember something. Moshe came to me with disrespect. He didn't treat me well. He didn't treat me like a king. So let me understand this. So you have all these miracles. You're blind to the miracles. Moshe Rabbeinu walks into your palace, I forget whether it's a fifth or sixth makkah, whatever it might be, and he shows you some level of disrespect. So now you're going to come back and say, well, that's why you didn't do tshuva, because you had some person come into you, some leader of the Jewish people who wasn't so nice to you, and therefore that's your reason why you didn't come back? That sounds like a pretty lame excuse, if you ask me. Sounds like HaKadosh Baruch Hu can answer back Paro, that's your excuse for not coming back because Moshe spoke to you a little bit harsh. He didn't show you proper respect. Like, what's going on here? And I think what's really happening is something that really is a fundamental point in Muslim that we don't always recognize. Every single aspect of what we go through in life, HaKadosh Baruch Hu measures. And yes, even though Paro really, it does seem like a pretty lame excuse to be able to say, I wasn't treated with respect, he didn't talk nice to me. You know what? There's something to be said for that. There is a mitigating factor for that. HaKadosh Baruch Hu recognizes that, you know what? If you're a king and Moshe Rabbeinu didn't talk nice to you, and that's a reason why you don't come back to me, it's not the same as not coming back because of a clean slate where everything was right for you and you didn't come back because you chose not to come back. It's not the same. People ask all the time, they wonder, well, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, we have expectations. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu going to calculate the world we live in today, where we grew up, the things that we had to go through to get to this point? And maybe we were exposed to different things that make it a little bit more challenging now for us than before. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu going to calculate that? The answer is, of course he's going to calculate it. Of course, in today's world, one can argue again. We can't make these lofty, high-fluting decisions. That's in HaKadosh Baruch Hu's world. It's not in our world. But one thing we do know, HaKadosh Baruch Hu goes to the nth degree to find favor in terms of who we are and what we're doing. And if we are making decisions in this world, in the world of all the crazy mishigas out there between the technology and the whole liberal movement of what's going on in the world and the politics of America and literally the comical type of leadership going on from all directions. If you guys at Baruch Hashem, you don't know about the day-to-day, the games that are being played at the highest levels of leadership that used to be, sort of a representative of dignity and honesty, and it's all falling apart. It's a scary world we're living in. And the only place where there's a little bit of there's truth and honesty, not a little bit, Hashem, but where can you find it? You can find it here in the Beis Medrash in Torah. This is where, and somehow the Yetzer is somehow adept at getting us to somehow never appreciating who we are and the commitments and the choices we've made, and that they are amazing. And you walked away from all of that, and you gave up the American dream, you put it on hold, and which very often is truly the American nightmare, and you said, you know what, I'm going to embrace Torah, and I'm going to come to Eretz Yisrael to learn. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and we think that he's sort of tough with us. He doesn't love us to such an incredible degree that he's going to welcome every single day that we get up every morning and we daven Shachris and we learn a strong morning Seder, or up at night and we have a Mishma program. I mean, these are things that are just off the charts in terms of the impact in the world. I had the schus of hearing Rav Brevda once. It's one of the great Bali Musa of the early generation. He came to us, he shared with us an incredible shmooze that he heard from Rabbi Avrohom. And he said that the day we heard that shmooze, the night that Rabbi Avrohom told us, Rav Brevda said to us, he came to the valley once to, not sure why he was there, but we had the schus of hearing him in the Beis Medrash at Valley Torah. And He said the words, he said, when we heard these words from Rabbi Avrohom, the great Mashkiach, the Talmud of the Chavetz Chaim, and many others, was an incredible person. The Lev Eliyahu wrote an incredible sefer. And he said, we were so moved we couldn't sleep that night. We were so moved to appreciate the Torah that we're learning that he says we couldn't even sleep that night. And I remember here, when I heard those words, I said, I'm going to look around, let's see who's going to sleep tonight by us. And, 30 years later, we had some guys who slept that night. I have to admit, I also slept that night. But it was a powerful shmooze. Hearing it from him was powerful. I'll share with you. Obviously, it won't have the same dramatic effect, but hopefully the words will have that impact. But he said very quickly, he said that Reb Chaim Volozhin writes that we just don't appreciate the power of Torah. This power that we're doing, that what we're immersing ourselves in every single day, that you guys come every single day to that Beis HaMedrash, and you're working on your sugyas, and you're finishing your Gemaras, and you're working on your Mishnah Berurah, all of the different endeavors. And the more difficult sometimes it is, the more meaningful it is. The level of Mesiras Nefesh, the Amelus that goes into Torah, that's what makes a difference in a person's learning, and that's the greatest impact. That's why when the fellow went, or the great Gadol went to a yeshiva, and forgot the name of the yeshiva already, but he went around and he says, show me a little tour of this great yeshiva back in the early 1900s. And he said, that's the biggest Baki, and that's the biggest Lamdin, and that's the guy who knows this, and that's the biggest Masbid, but who's the best guy? He asked him, who's the best? Oh, the best guy? You want the best guy? He went to a different room. That fell in the corner. He's the best guy in yeshiva. What makes him the best guy? You told me everybody else has different qualities. What makes him the best guy? Well, because he's the biggest mavakesh. He wants it the most. And he tries the hardest. And that was a Steipler Gaon that he pointed to. When he was about 15 years old, he pointed to the Steipler Gaon, learning in the Beis Medrash, who became the Rabban Shel Kol Yisrael. Not because he had the biggest IQ, but because he wanted it the most. And this power, he says, of wanting it. And he gives us seer. And apparently, I think it's in the Nefesh HaChaim that he brings, Reb Chaim Volozhin says, that imagine this seer. This is a scene that could happen in Klal Yisrael. And Reb Chaim Volozhin says, this is the reality of the world we live in today. We don't see this reality. We can't see it we don't have the special glasses to perceive this reality, but he says, this is what goes on. And he says, a guy can be taking his wife to a hospital in Berlin, and his wife is expecting a baby, and there's excitement and anticipation. You walk into he wheels his wife in the wheelchair into the delivery room, and 500 miles away there's a guy in some little shtetl, little dorfel somewhere in a Makom Torah who made a Kabbalah on Yom Kippur that 5 minutes before I go to sleep every single night, I'm going to learn Torah. My day has to end with some learning. And these two different people are going through life, and at the very same time, this guy 2 o'clock in the morning is in Berlin, this guy 500 miles away, just came back from a wedding, and he's exhausted, dancing and having a grand old time, and he just comes back totally exhausted, and he puts his head on the pillow, and he's plopping, he's about to fall into a deep sleep. Oh, my Kabbalah, my 5 minutes, I didn't do my 5 minutes. And the Eitzar, of course, says, don't worry, you get 5 minutes tomorrow, don't worry about it, you'll do it tomorrow. I said every day. So the Eitzar and the Eitzar Tov start grappling, but yeah, come on, get up, don't get up. It's the pillow feels so good in the blanket, it's so, I'm about to fall into that deep sleep, it's so geschmack. But you gotta get up. And while he's agitating, while he's agonizing, and while he's deliberating over this 5 minute issue, the doctor comes out 500 miles away in Berlin saying, I don't know what happened, but your wife has internal bleeding. I don't know if she's going to make it. I don't know if your child's going to make it. These two things are happening at the same time, and they seem to be so disparate, so disconnected. Says Reb Chaim Volozhin, and this is what Rabbi Avrohom told his Talmidim, and because they heard those words, they could not sleep that night. He said, that guy decides to pull himself out of bed and put that light on and learn for those 5 minutes. The power of those 5 minutes, the power of that Torah with a little bit of Mesiras Nefesh, a little bit of a kvetch, but you push yourself to do it, has the ability to transmit itself to Berlin immediately on a supersonic jet. The power of that Torah gets moved over, and the doctor comes out and says, I'm not sure what happened, but the internal bleeding stopped. Your wife's okay, and you're the proud father of a baby boy. And he's on cloud 9, and he's happy that he was able to wake up and do his 5 minutes. And these two people will never meet, ever, in this world. But those 5 minutes save that baby, save that mother. And says Reb Chaim Volozhin, this is what Reb Brevda told us in the Beis Medrash, in Achamev Esmer Shana, after 120 years, this guy who put in those 5 minutes when he was 18 or 19 years old, probably maybe the same age of you guys over here, a lot of you. And he goes up to Shemaim after 120 years, and the big screen comes down. This is your life. All of the mitzvahs come playing, on the big screen. The mitzvahs, the chesed, the davening, the learning, everything is gewaldig. And he's shepping nachas. Maybe they'll open up the pearly gates. I'll be able to go into Gan Eden. And all of a sudden, the screen continues, and there's a family in Germany, and there's mitzvahs and Torah and children and grandchildren, and right away he says, "Oh, just hold the tape. Just cut the tape right there. This is the Olam Emes. I can't lie. I'd love to get credit for this. It's a wonderful family. It looks like a lot of mitzvahs there in Germany, but I never met these guys. You somehow the splicing, somebody spliced the tape a little bit and put in the wrong video because I don't deserve credit. I don't know these people." And he says, No. This is your cheshbon. The only reason why there's a child who had a child doing mitzvos with an entire family who are alive today doing mitzvos is because of those 5 minutes you put in, you get that credit. That's your cheshbon. And not only do you have what you did directly in terms of your lifetime, but the impact is far-reaching, and that all goes back to each and every one of us who puts in that time. So this is why the idea of not just the learning that we do, but sometimes when it's tough, and boy, again, we can all look back at our generation. I grew up in the 60s, and, we had the craziness, but I don't know how you can't argue that today that you guys represent the toughest challenge of guys who are able to commit themselves to come out to Eretz Yisrael to learn Torah. You got a good argument to say you are in the elite category in all of human history. And nobody's had that much to deal with, that much of a pull, that much craziness between the phones and the this and the that and all the other things going on in the world. Boy, that you guys pulled yourselves out of that and said, I'm going to commit myself to learn Torah. I'm going to come to Eretz Yisrael. And that's why Moshe Rabbeinu, we're learning Parshat Yisrael, I'll just end with this, that's why Moshe Rabbeinu, when he told Klal Yisrael that Yisrael's idea is a good idea, and I'm going to have to delegate authority. And he told them in the beginning of Devarim that when I told you back in Parshat Yisrael, the Parsha we're gonna read this week, when I told you this idea, you jumped at it. You said, "Yes, Moshe, good job, good idea." And he gave him Musa. He says, "Chalatem hadovel lanaschem." He told him, "You took this idea, and instead of giving me the right answer, you gave me the wrong answer. What you said was, good idea, Moshe. I know what you were thinking. Why it's a good idea that we should start delegating all of the decisions. They had Yisro's mentality? No. Rashi says in Devarim, take a look at the Rashi, incredible Rashi. It says you like the idea because you figured somebody in the lower end you can bribe. If you have a case and you want to win the case, Moshe Rabbeinu, you knew, is beyond repute. There's no way you're going to touch Moshe. And your case is going to be adjudicated exactly the way it should be. But a lower level judge maybe can stick him a $100 bill there, or make some kind of deal with him, and you can persuade him in your direction. That's why you like the idea, but you shouldn't have liked the idea. Rashi continues. What you should have said to me is, Moshe Rabbeinu, no way we want anybody else adjudicating our cases. We don't think Yisro's idea is a good idea at all. We want you and only you. Why? Rashi says, why should you have wanted me? Moshe says to the Jewish people, incredible words. You should have wanted me because I was mitztarer the most over the Torah. Doesn't say the most, because I was mitztarer over the Torah. And this Rashi, when I saw it years ago, I couldn't understand this Rashi. That's why they should want Moshe Rabbeinu. That's the reason why I should be your Rebbe and why you should not want to hear anybody else's Torah, but only my Torah, because I was mitztarer over the Torah. How about because I learned Torah from Mipi Agvura? Maybe because I'm the greatest Navi in the history of the Jewish people. Maybe because I'm the biggest Lamda and I have the most understanding and I understand the reason for Paraduma, which nobody else in human history understands. All of that is not the reason why you should want to learn Torah from me. Because I was mitzvah, because I spent 40 days and 40 nights without any food, without any water. That's why. And this Rashi is opening up our eyes to the essence of what really makes greatness in Torah. And that's why you want it the most. He wanted it the most. He became the disciple of Gaon. Rav Scheinberg Zatzal, Goyin Otzim, what he wrote about in all of David Chalke, Shulchan Aruch, and Shas and Paiskim, what this man accomplished in his lifetime. And he says he is a Yankee fan, growing up in New York. I don't know, it was in the 70s till he said, he gave a special kiddush, I heard this from his grandson, He gave a special Kiddush in his 70s when he heard a Yankees score and it didn't impact him, didn't make him feel good that the Yankees won. Took him that long. Grew up in New York as a Yankee fan. I share something with Rabbi Stulberger. So, this is a man who was able to achieve and he says, not because I had a better IQ than anybody else. He was not, and this is what he said more than once, he was not some raving genius with a photographic memory who knew Kol Torah, although you can put any pin in a Mishnah Berurah to tell exactly where the words are of a Mishnah Berurah. He knew Mishnah Berurah cover to cover by heart without any question. How? He says, because I took advantage when I would drive a car in New York, and I had a sefer by the red light. Now, I don't know, today it might be dangerous to, if you're reading a sefer when the light turns green, not be a good idea. I'm not sure that's the right thing today, because, road rage is big in America, but just that concept, that he was able to become who he was because he took advantage of that time and he put in that effort to have that sefer when maybe it wasn't so easy, it wasn't so comfortable, but he pushed himself. That's what Torah, that's the difference. And that's why Moshe Rabbeinu said, those 40 days and 40 nights, that's why you should want to learn Torah from me. Because of the Mesiras Nefesh I gave, not my natural intelligence, my natural brilliance. And the beauty of that concept, Rabbi says, is that on that level, we are all equal. Because what we bring to the table every single day in our learning, that's all here. That's right here. It's in our heart, in our desire, in our push. It's not about whether we have ADHD or ADD or this or that or different types of challenges in today's world. Who knows who doesn't have a challenge? We all got different things, and we're not all 160 IQ geniuses who can't forget anything they ever learned in their lives. It doesn't matter. For HaKadosh Baruch Hu's world, wants the effort. He wants to push. He wants that being mavakesh. And on that level, Baruch Hashem, it's all about what we bring to the table every single day. So you are in an incredible place. You have incredible Rebbeim and Rosh Yeshivas who are so dedicated to you, and you are learning the eternal truth that is the only thing that will survive all of the craziness in the world. We should just continue to grow in it. You should take full advantage of the time that you're here, Baruch Hashem, the many years that you're here, and that's chus of your Torah, and it's chus of Torah, Klal Yisrael, we should all be zocheh to be a Mashiach Meher Remain.